Welcome to the Move and Flow studio day. I have Hillary Wells with me, who is our operations for the studio, and Lisa Weiland, PT, physical therapist, who is one of our amazing instructors and corporate facilitators. Welcome to the Move and Flow studio, and we want to talk about happy hormones. It's a program that I created over probably the past 20 years of clinical practice, and it has 5 steps in the program that we're going to talk about today. So if you are struggling with fatigue, exhaustion, skin irritations, joint pain, sleepless nights, I call it like mystery weight, this weight that comes on our body, or muscle deterioration, perimenopausal symptoms, and you want to start to decode what is happening in your body, Happy Hormones is a place for you to come into. And we have steps. The first is symptom mapping. So we map the symptoms, we find out which ones are yelling at us the loudest, and sometimes it's surprising when you do this exercise. And then we go into what mental thoughts are connected, what emotions are underneath the symptoms. So mental, emotional, and actions. Think, feel, act. If you put the symptom that's yelling at you like in the center of the circle, and then you surround it with these mental thoughts, emotions, and actions, once we start to unravel and unwind those negative patterns, the symptom has this chance to breathe and go poof. Hillary, give us a little bit about your experience lately with what you've been going through and happy hormones.
Starting with 10 years of perimenopausal hell. I didn't know at first that that's what it was. I didn't know what was happening. And I think that's something that is very common. I have younger friends who will be like, am I going nuts? Like, what is happening here? I'm like, no, you're not crazy. This is happening. And it's your hormones. And so I think it's really important to have these conversations. And that's why I love the circle, because it shows up for us all in different ways. It showed up for me in those 10 years of just every kind of symptom you could think of. Then I went through menopause, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was like, thank you. And then I felt great. But then recently, all of a sudden, about 5 or 6 weeks ago, my hair just started falling out, just like in clumps, like out of nowhere. I was really bummed out about it. And then I started investigating. I saw a dermatologist, I've seen a doctor, and then I also was doing my own internal investigations and using the work of FlowFIT and now Happy Hormones. And it turns out I've got some thyroid stuff going on. And during Happy Hormones yesterday, we had done this symptom dump of all the symptoms. And then my thyroid it wasn't my hair, it was my thyroid that was speaking to me. And it was holding an old belief when I really slowed down and took the time to listen and put my hand there. And it said, it's not safe to express myself. And that really brought me a lot of sadness, because I feel like that came up even from childhood. I was different. I was very withdrawn as a child. And so I think part of that was not knowing how to express myself, or just wanting to spend time with myself and write and read and do the things that I did. But then in puberty, as often happens with women, I think we tend to lose parts of our authentic self as we start to develop. And so now I asked my thyroid what it wanted, and it said, I got to be me, meaning self-expression. And I've really been working on my leadership and getting out in the world and not being afraid to speak my mind, which has definitely always been an issue for me. Lisa was talking about the pleaser personality, that stress personality that women have of being the pleaser, trying to placate everybody, trying to help everybody. And I think I definitely have had that with my voice of being afraid to speak up. This Happy Hormones group really helped me identify that's what's going on. And my doctor had said, oh, your thyroid's very full. And I could feel it. I could feel that it was full after she pointed that out. But yesterday, after I had this conversation with my thyroid, all of a sudden, my dog started having this in his throat. And he has never had that before. All of a sudden, out of nowhere. And he starts kind of puking and stuff's coming out of his throat. And immediately after that happened, I started having this mucus release in my throat, and I had to stand over the sink and just get rid of a bunch of stuff. And then I felt my thyroid, and it had gone way down. It was not
Oh.
as full. I do believe that animals do clearing for us if we're close to them. And so he was clearing that for me. And then I cleared it immediately after. It was just, and now I've been kind of palpating my thyroid a lot and going, yeah, it feels different. It feels more like my neck and less like a bulge here after that conversation. So what Pam was saying about if we talk about the symptoms and they go poof, I'm not saying all my symptoms have gone poof, but it's definitely shifted.
Found in clinical practice that when we get under our avoidance, like it's like you've got to dive under the avoidance, your brain wanting to distract you, and really get into symptom talking and listen and then speak from that symptom or place. I call it body talking. When you get into that symptom or energy or place in your body or organ and you allow it the space to have a voice, like part of you, that is the expression. And it's amazing what comes out. And I've had people move through by diving in and connecting your brain to your body and really listening. So that's amazing, Hillary. Thanks for that validating story. And I love that, like the fullness in the thyroid. And I had been sharing my story with Hillary and you'll see my cortisol story on Facebook because mine had swelled up during menopause too. And I kept saying, mine went down. I know yours can too. So I had had that same sensation of like my neck being held up by a brace. My thyroid was swollen. Lisa, you want to weigh in on anything that you're feeling about our Happy Hormones program?
Yeah. So what I love about this, we have so many different hormones. We just don't, we'll often talk about our sexual hormones, then we have our stress hormones and how everything is so intricately connected. And for me, I feel like for my journey, when I look back, one defining moment, this was probably in the mid 1990s, I started having chronic kidney infections. And we've been talking a lot about my stress journey and not even bladder infections. It would go straight to the kidneys. Well, what sits on top of the kidneys is our adrenal glands. And so for me, I feel like that cortisol story, that underlying inflammation was really part. And so what I love about happy hormones and the five body techniques that Pam is talking about is that it's a way to journal, to really tap into what we call our subconscious brains. What stories do we have on autopilot? What behaviors do we have on autopilot? What emotions do we have? And how do we start breaking those patterns? How do we start resolving them? And it's just an amazing technique as far as listening, journaling, and then some of the other techniques that we do with breathe, move, and imagine. And like yesterday, ma'am, the mind cleanse, because it was a variety. There was one major word, but I had to pack two other words into it. So that was really powerful for me.
Oh, that is so wonderful. We remove the survival code patterns from the brain using a technique called the mind cleanse. This is body coaching through movement and breath and journaling and processing, talking out loud, being heard, asking questions to us and also to yourself. So it's really about body listening and it's really about us consulting our own bodies. It is a great way to support yourself on the daily as a daily practice to reduce stress in the body, which does impact our hormones, and to take ownership of your process, to be an advocate for yourself. So, if you're looking for a way to be an advocate for your own health, this is definitely for you.
And a place to be supported by other people who are going through things. And I think that's so important for women, these conversations. And it's important for people. I just want to mention also the Positive Conversations monthly group that we have, which is open to women and men. And that's going to be on the second Friday of every month. And in June 12th, Lisa is going to be our speaker and share her full story of her journey of stress. And it's pretty amazing story. Positive Conversations is on the second Friday of every month in our Move and Flow studio. We have so many offerings on ways to help ourselves, and including our daily classes. And that's really what keeps us going, is that daily practice. I'm an instructor
Love it.
there. We're all instructors there. And we do this practice because we love it and we know what it does for us. And when Pam was talking in Happy Hormones, and she mentioned this just now about the cascade of stress and really what happens like as it cascades through the body. And I thought, well, stress leads to distress. Stress leads to distress. Our nervous system is in distress. Everything's in distress when we're stressed. So if you want to move from stress out of distress and into parasympathetic ease and flow, Move and Flow Studio is a place to do that, and it's a safe space to do that.
It sure is. And it's online and accessible anywhere. People do it from their cars, the park, their
Bathtub.
hotel rooms, the hot tub, the tub. During the pandemic, we got to journey into people's spaces. Never forget that.
Wherever you are, we can be there 6 days a week. We have classes and we rest on Sunday.
And we rest on Sunday.
Just do
On
a
that
little
note, it's time to
pause.
enjoy our weekend. We'll see y'all later.
Bye.